Baby, be in love with your fantasies. I can be a star, make us shine so bright. Welcome to my dungeon, this is ecstasy. Let me play the...
No. What's good, YouTube? It's your girl, Asia.
And it's your boy, BJ. And we back like we never left. And you saw I did this right here. You saw me do this right here. We got a really good one right now that I really want to kind of touch base on. It's involving gender and transgender. Okay, now they have Jordan Peterson on here, and he's looks like he's like having a debate in regards to talking about transgender. Mm-hmm. And looks like she's asking him a question. Does he think a transgender woman is a woman? And that's the question for Jordan Peterson. Looks like that's what this clip is mostly probably going to be about. So I want to dial into it because we did do and see some other things in regards to transgender women being in sports and playing in a woman's sport, and then them having like the advantage and things of that nature that we had discussed before. Yeah. And so this one is going a little. I feel like it's going a little deeper because they're asking him, is a transgender woman a real woman?
Yeah. So this should be very interesting. I'm curious to see how he's going to answer this question. Because Jordan, he's very careful about his words and his wording. So I'm just like, woo, let me see how this is about to go.
Yeah, I want to see how he's going to answer this question.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Let's go.
You hit the button. Go ahead. Go ahead. Let's check him out.
Dismantles feminism.
One of our guests of the day, the other one today, is a man you may recognise, or maybe you don't. Jordan Peterson has achieved that rare feat, becoming a global superstar academic. So how did he become so well known? He first came to national prominence in Canada in 2016 in a debate about new laws on gender identity. Bill C-16 made it an offence to refuse to call someone by their chosen gender pronoun. Jordan Peterson argued that this would infringe free speech, while some supporters of the bill said he was advocating prejudice. From there, his YouTube star took...
So he was against the bill, basically. Okay.
Off.
Prejudice.
And he has now over 1 million subscribers. And his videos, where he talks everything from identity politics, which we've touched on, to the Bible, to Disney movies, have been viewed over 150 million times. Gosh, that's about the same number of viewers we have on this programme. Last year, he supported ex-Google employee James Damore, who had been fired for suggesting men and women have different interests due to biological differences. And his latest book, 12 Rules for Life, has taken him on a global tour promoting his ideas. And just this week, he sold out the 1,000-seater Emmanuel Centre around the corner here in Westminster. So, Jordan, you've done endless interviews. You've been publicising your book, and they've generated plenty of heated debate.
No, I actually sold out the Apollo. It had 5,000 seats.
All right, stop boasting. Do you think, though, because of the heat that has been generated, that your views have been misrepresented at times?
Oh, definitely, but that's part and parcel of the process. I did take a very forceful stance, let's say, against some of the excesses of the radical left-wingers, and it's in their best interest to paint me as somehow a figure of the extreme right, because then I don't have to be contended with. But, I mean, it's easy for people's views to be oversimplified in a very large public debate.
I mean, in terms of some of the issues, I mean, you say you've been painted as an extreme right-winger.
No, some people have tried that. Not very successfully, but they've tried it.
And you came to prominence in part over your opposition to this law that we just talked about in Canada, proposing the use of preferred pronouns for transgender people. Just for clarity...
Mandating them.
Yeah.
Right.
Saying that you should do it.
No, but that you had to do it.
Right, you had to do it by law. But just for clarity, do you think a trans woman is a real woman?
I don't really like the way those...
Okay, so, I mean, basically, a transgender woman, like, that's somebody that's already, like, then went and
had an operation.
Like an operation, or, like the whole operation, or going through it, or like they, like, completed it and everything?
Everything. Like, everything in terms of, like, hormones and stuff like that. Like, a whole transition.
Okay.
Yeah.
Woman is a real woman.
I don't really like the way those questions are formulated. I don't know what that means. What do you mean a real woman?
Well,
She
I'm
doesn't-
asking you, in your mind, it depends what you think a real woman is, but do you think a trans woman is a woman?
No,
Why not?
because I think that women are capable, generally speaking, of having babies, and they have female genitalia, and they have an XX chromosome, and I think the biological markers are relevant. It doesn't
I agree.
I mean, I mean, it's a fact. I mean, at the end of the day,
I do agree.
as far as what she's asking him right now, I'm just
Specifically to that question, I do agree with what he's saying.
yeah, and even the question that she's asked, she kind of asked it to him and kind of in a brash way, kind of in a sense.
Yeah, like, well, do you think that transgender women are
She just jumped right into it.
women?
Okay.
I see. Okay, I don't know if they are about to attack him or if they're about to start twisting like the other lady did. The one.
Yeah, because he
my.
even kind of said, he's like, I don't even like the way that you formulate in that particular question. But I mean, at the end of the day, yeah, I mean, obviously that's two different things.
Yeah, but
Come on.
my only stance on that is like, okay, yeah, to answer your question, I do agree with what he's saying, but does that mean that I won't like them or talk to them or respect them as individuals, as people, the same way? Like, I feel like I would respect them the same way. I would talk to them the same. I wouldn't treat them differently, but if you are asking me that question,
Yeah, I mean,
that is the
I'll
answer
say,
to my,
yeah.
like,
I mean,
yeah.
obviously, yeah, that's
You know
a
what I'm
fact.
saying?
That's a fact, though.
Yeah.
women are capable, generally speaking, of having babies, and they have female genitalia, and they have an XX chromosome, and I think the biological markers are relevant. It doesn't necessarily mean that I don't think that people should be treated with respect and dignity if they happen not to fit easily into a gender category. That's a different issue.
Right.
But
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay. I'll take a bow for that. Wow. Like, yeah, but that's
Yeah.
what I was trying to say. I would still respect them like everybody else.
Yeah, you
I
said
wouldn't
dignity.
treat them
I mean,
any different.
Yeah.
they happen not to fit easily into a gender category. That's a different issue.
Right.
But it's a matter of definition. And I actually think it's a foolish argument in some sense. Because what do you mean by real?
Well, I mean, you've just clarified that, though. You don't think that a trans woman is a woman. And do you think that is what is behind or explains your opposition to this idea of a law mandating you to use a preferred pronoun, is because you don't actually believe that that's the truth, that a trans woman is a woman, and therefore you can't use that pronoun?
No, that's not my argument at
Really?
all. Yeah, really. My argument is that the
I know what
government
your
shouldn't
argument
compel
is.
voluntary speech.
No, but I know what your argument is, and
No,
you've
but
made
that's
it very
really
clearly.
it. No, but that's exactly it. There's
But the
no behind.
motivation
There's
behind
no motivation behind it.
But you don't believe
I
a
wouldn't
trans
have put
woman is a woman.
everything on online in my life to take the stance I did unless I had thought that through very deeply. And I've thought it through very deeply. There aren't hidden motivations that have to do with some arbitrary prejudice against trans people.
Okay.
It's pure and simply.
See, and I agree with him right there too, because like, I just give like a quick example too, as far as like, when Caitlyn Jenner, when Caitlyn Jenner kind of came out and was transgender and went through the whole process from being, from being Bruce to Caitlyn Jenner. It's like I see it the same way. Like, yeah, I mean, I remember Bruce, and then if you want to go through that process and be a transgender, and then now you want your name to be called Caitlyn Jenner, I'm gonna call you that. I'm gonna treat you with the same respect. But in regards to that question that he's asking, a real woman, in regards to a transgender, I mean, it's scientifically known. I mean, obviously.
I think what he's saying though is like,
So
they're wanting to be referred to as she and he, Mrs. That type of thing, like in terms of transgender.
That's what the bill had something to do
Yeah,
with.
and so he was opposed to being like, well, why do we have to call them she if they're
Or be
not
mandated to do it.
Yeah, or be mandated to do it. So I think he had an opposition to that.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah,
But see, that's the way I am. Whatever that person wants to be called, I'm gonna call you that. I'm not gonna. If Caitlyn Jenner today was like, I want to be called Caitlyn Jenner, that's what I'm gonna say. I'm not gonna call you Bruce. Like, hey, Bruce. No, you know what I mean?
Right. I mean,
if you have true respect and dignity, for somebody else and their opinions and how they feel and what they believe in, you know what I mean?
Yeah, because in other, like, even if I didn't have to address you like that, I just feel like that's just mean. Like, I mean, it is mean.
It's insensitive.
It's very, you know what I mean? Like, so I don't know. I can't say that I would be like, no, I'm gonna call you Bruce. Like,
Right.
that's kind of, it's very, like you said, it's insensitive. That's kind of messed up.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Disrespectful in a sense, almost. I mean, depending on who you ask, it's kind of disrespectful to me.
Definitely.
Yeah.
With some arbitrary prejudice against trans people.
Okay.
It's pure and simply this. There's never been a time in English common law history where the government compelled speech, and the Canadian government dared to do that. And that was unacceptable. And they masked it with this show of compassion for the oppressed, and I don't buy it.
Right, but you would, as I think you said, at an individual level, if somebody
Wouldn't
asked you,
have.
if you know, somebody asked you to use a particular pronoun, you would do so.
Well, I have.
You have,
Yes.
right? Fine.
Yes.
Let's talk about feminism. Are you a feminist?
No, not as it's currently defined, certainly not.
No. Well, in any other definition?
Well, I think that anybody who doesn't think that the competitive landscape should be opened up for equality of opportunity is not thinking. And so everyone's interests are better served if people have as equal access to opportunity to display their talents and to manifest their talents in the world as possible. So in that sense, certainly. But feminism now, and this is why it's so deeply unpopular, a very small minority of women in the UK identify as feminists. And the reason for that is it's primarily become an ideological weapon. And it's an ideology that I detest, actually, the ideology that it's associated with, collectivist ideology.
Right. I mean, okay, and that's your view about feminism. Aisha, are you a feminist?
Oh,
I've seen it to a degree too, where sometimes feminists they try to use that as like a weapon, saying they're a feminist, being labeled that.
absolutely. I'm a very proud feminist, and when I was a special advisor in government, I worked on women and equality issues, and I was very proud actually of a piece of legislation I got on the statute book with my former boss Harriet Harman, the Equality Act in 2010, which strengthened our anti-discrimination laws. And I fought very hard to get more women into public life, into the Labour Party, and I'm very, very proud of being a feminist, hence my pink dress.
Oh, well, all right. Obviously reverting to type then in the pink dress.
Absolutely, well.
You would like men to regain or reclaim their strength physically, mentally and morally. Is that broadly correct?
I would say morally, fundamentally, but I think the other things go along with that.
Right, and if that
But it isn't men precisely who I'm speaking to. It's people. I'm a clinical psychologist. I'm actually interested in individuals, and I'm interested in their fortification against tragedy. Every time I do an interview, the interview is always political. It's always political.
Well, the clue is in the title of this programme. We are the Daily Politics.
No, fair enough. No, look, fair enough. And I'm not casting aspersions at this programme, but the fundamental news that's important about what I'm doing isn't the political element. And the people who talk to me don't talk politically. They say they've watched my lectures.
But part
and
of it is that I think for a lot of people the kind of personal does become the political.
Or the political becomes the personal.
Yeah, and I think in terms of
but in this situation, a lot of people are wrong, because primarily what's happening is people are watching my lectures, and as a consequence, their lives are improving dramatically.
Oh, I'm sure they are. I'm sure people are have had a huge conversion after, and they're much happier once they've been.
But
what I would like to do is kind of almost, I think.
Wait, what did
She
she
said
say?
it had a complete conversion. She pretty much saying like, oh, what you've done for them is just, oh my God, it's just the greatest thing in the world. She kind of slick did that a little bit.
Oh,
Yeah.
let me go back just a little
Right
bit.
there.
A lot of people, the kind of personal does become the political.
Or the political becomes the personal.
Yeah, and I think in terms of
but in this situation, a lot of people are wrong, because primarily what's happening is people are watching my lectures, and as a consequence, their lives are improving dramatically.
Oh, I'm sure they are. I'm sure people are have had a huge conversion after, and they're much happier once they've been.
It's not a conversion.
But what I would
attempt
like to do is kind of almost. I think at the moment the discussion about feminism is very divisive, and sometimes it can sort of be like, okay, men have to lose and women have to gain. Actually, everybody has a lot to gain by greater equality. Now, whether you get the equality of outcome that you want, I think only time will tell. But certainly, equality of opportunity is very important. And actually,
we can agree on that.
And a lot of men would benefit from that. So I think a lot of men are having a lot of crises at the moment in terms of mental health, suicide issues, their own sense of identity, because I think some of the stereotypes put on men are quite limiting for them
as well. I think they make men quite unhappy as well.
The devil's in the details with regards to equality, because I'm an advocate of equality of opportunity. But
And
I think
outcomes.
the idea outcomes, that's an appalling doctrine.
Why?
Why?
All right. Well, hang on.
Because you have to produce an unbelievably potent bureaucracy to make the ever greater and ever finer distinctions that are necessary to enforce equality of outcome. How many group differences are you going to equalize across? Is it just gender and sex? How many genders?
No, so
gender and ethnicity? How many genders?
I think
how many
what
ethnicities?
people are-
How many races?
We'll let Aisha answer.
I think what people are trying to do with this, and certainly as somebody who has looked to sought to sort of do this myself, I think you set yourself ambitions for what you would like to see, and then you try and remove as many of the structural barriers and obstacles. So you try and create that fair crack of the whip and that equality of opportunity to see where you get to with the outcomes.
That's
now,
fine.
we are in very early stages. It's only 100 years since women got the vote in this country. We have had a long-established patriarchal society and set up for a long time in the world in this country.
Right, but and again, like what they're saying, at the end of the day, the equality for both men and women needs to be equal at the end of the day, even when it comes to like the pay and things of that nature, as far as like being able to get into like certain positions and being able to own companies. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Like I've heard like this same type of discussion over and over again, and it's just like it just seems like it just leads to nowhere. A means to no end to me sometimes, to a degree.
Yeah, but I just it's probably an everlasting type of argument though, because at the end of the day, a woman a woman is a woman, and I mean, is a woman. I mean,
Right.
when you put that in any category, you can't. In terms of comparison, when you talk about jobs, you talk about employment, income, opportunity. Like, women have babies, men don't. Like, there's so many different.
There are variables.
Variables. Mm-hmm. That you kind of have to put in there, that sprinkle in, and it's just like I don't know what the answer to all of that is, because you have so much to consider. But
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird.
Yeah.
Long-established patriarchal society and set up for a long time in the world in this country. So I think we have a long way to go to see where it plays out. There is no country in the world where we really do have gender equality properly yet, in terms of real decision making and real
Some of the
power.
Scandinavian countries, maybe?
But they're still not quite there, and I think you've spoken a lot about this. There's still a way to go in Scandinavia. Things are not perfect in Scandinavia.
I haven't
at
spoken
all.
about that specifically. I've spoken about.
You spoke about the right stuff yesterday. You talked about the
Well,
Scandinavian.
I've spoken about the fact that, see, one of the things that's happened in the analysis of the differences between men and women is that the social constructionist claim is that the differences are socially constructed, right? Is that it's a consequence of environment that men and women differ. But what the scientific literature indicates is that as cultures become more egalitarian, like they have in Scandinavia, the differences between men and women actually increase rather than decreasing, which is a direct repost to the social constructionist view. So they just deny all that. The biggest differences in the world in interest and temperament are between Scandinavian men and women. It's exactly the opposite of what everyone predicted.
Can I just pick up on one thing you said a little earlier in the interview, which you said it's the moral guidance that you are focused on. You think that is particularly important. How do you square that with the behaviour of perhaps arguably, a prominent alpha male president of the United States, Donald Trump? When his behaviour, he is accused of having an affair with a porn star when his wife was pregnant. How does that fit with morally reclaiming?
I would say that was rather clearly immoral.
Right.
Yeah,
but you would still,
not to be a target for emulation.
But you still would have voted for him over Hillary Clinton as an identity politics. It's just how
none
do
of that
you
was on the table, and I said I might have voted for him on a whim. That's
But you also did say you started out feeling quite close to Hillary Clinton. Can I just come on the
very quickly, because we've got to move on.
In a way, I don't care what Trump does in terms of his private life, but what I don't have is him stopping or potentially stopping other women having agency over their reproductive rights, and lots of men taking those decisions.
It's all about where the moral outrage lies, and what's more morally outrageous in people's eyes. Is it his behaviour or the identity politics for you on the... Anyway, we'll have to discuss this another time.
We'll have to discuss it another time. Not now. Now, I mean, just for the basis of everything in regards to exactly what this was about, I mean, I feel like that he answered that question the way that he should have answered, especially kind of how she asked that particular question, because I felt like she might have been looking for something else additional that was going to come with that, and I feel like he kind of stopped her, or he kind of caught her even at the very beginning of her, her asking that question before he answered it, to kind of like let her know that, like, I didn't,
I just
I
feel
don't
like
the
it
way
was a
that
little
you
bit kind of
worded
twisted.
that,
You know what I mean? How she was kind of just coming through with, how she was asking the questions, but then also, when he would answer the questions, it was like, let me pull from that, and then, especially when he's talking about the morality of men. I think what he's talking about just in general is not the masculinity in general. Like, a man is a man, like they look like men, but he's just talking about, I in general, it's just being a better man, like taking care of children, like everything, the responsibilities of being a good man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think that's what he's referring to.
Morally.
Morally. And for her, it was just like she was just trying to spin that off of, it just seemed like everything he said, it was, I don't know. This was like kind of twisted. I felt like it was almost like a passive aggressive type of situation. The whole time she was talking, even at the end.
Even when she started it.
Yeah.
She started kind of towards the end too as well.
She's like, just cut him off like, oh, he said, I sold out 5,000 seats, not 1,000. Like, look, if I sold out 5,000 seats, I sold out 5,000 seats.
Right.
Like, get it right. And
Right.
she said,
Right.
stop voting.
Right. And I gotta let people know that I sold 5,000, because you never know what's going on. I'm on tour and everything. Please don't let nobody know I only sold 1,000.
Yeah.
But
it was just kind of like, I felt like it was a little salty, how the interview went. But I did.
Yeah, they probably have their own kind of view, prior to even meeting him and him coming up to the panel. But like I said, even in regards to just the question, like he said, that has nothing to do with him, how he gonna treat that particular person as far as like dignity and respect wise. But her asking that question, it's pretty simple and plain for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think I'm there with them at the same. Like, yeah, I agree. I agree with how he answered the question. I don't particularly care for how the interview went, how the interview kind of went, because at the end of the day, I feel like he answered the questions and they were kind of taken a little bit out of context a little bit. Yeah,
and even how he kind of explained it is how I pretty much kind of see it as well. In regards to just.
At the end of the day, I'm like, look,
not a woman. You know what I mean?
I'm glad there are women out there that care enough for women to, try to do good for women, because there's a lot that could be done. Okay, but some stuff I just think is too much.
Yeah.
I really do just think it's too much. Yeah. And that's just the truth. I don't know. I don't know. Say that and get out of that one, but sometimes I feel like some of the stuff like
But like I said, and they even asked that particular question in regards to the bill, that C-16 bill.
Yeah.
In Canada, and he was like saying that he was opposed to
it. Because he said
in regards to like certain pronouns and how you're going to actually address someone that is a transgender person, and they kind of pretty much mandated it, like that, almost like that's a law, like
yeah.
you break
but
the law.
I think he was fighting for freedom of speech and just saying, well, I can say whatever I want to say if it is what it is, especially if it is what it is.
If I really wanted to, but at the end of the day, it comes down to their own personal decision how they're going to treat that other person in regards to like the respect level. So and he's just saying there shouldn't be a government to make me have to be that way, or say it that way. But at the end of the day, that's just human law. You should treat somebody with respect and dignity at the end of the day. So
I think that. I definitely think that. Yeah. Purely. So hey, y'all let us know what y'all think about this. Ooh, these videos.
Please let me know.
Woo. Especially when you get them like this, it's just like y'all. I be like, I don't know how he's sitting in that hot seat, okay?
Yeah,
and keep it together.
But you got to have very thick skin, you know what I mean, at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
And when you made for that position, then you can take it,
Yeah.
You can take the heat.
Hey, I'm just saying. So, hey, if y'all enjoyed this video, be sure you give us a big thumbs up, like, comment, subscribe, smash the notification bell. Y'all join the family. And if ain't nobody else told you, I love you. And we're going to see y'all in the next video, y'all.